And welcome to the Daily Space Weather. We are skipping the music as there's too much stuff to cover. Cosmology articles out the yin-yang. Coronal holes on the sun, visible here in 193 angstroms. We see a little bit of crown prominence style activity going on the north solar polar field. Take a look at that real quick. Pretty weak activity overall. And the geomagnetic space is as weak as it gets. 10.7 centimeter radial flux still at 66, and it is cold all around the planet. We got big plasma filaments visible here in 304 angstroms. There's the northwest one. By the way, we call this the west because this is where features set. And over here, we call this the east because this is where features rise. That's why this side's called the east and this side's called the west. We know which way you hang your maps with the north facing. Anyway. There's that southeast plasma filament that we were looking at yesterday. And here's one more view of the northwest. Please leave a comment. If your name is Northwest, that'll probably get us some clicks. Next, we'll go to the real-time solar wind, which is incredibly low. Check out the solar wind density, 0.3 protons per cubic centimeter. That's quite low, and it's been lower. It's been all the way down to 0.1 or less. Solar wind speed down to 370 kilometers a second. Phi angle right now looking fairly safe at around 140 degrees. BT, BZ are pretty convergent there, although the total strength is fairly high. And there's the ACE data corroborating that incredibly low solar wind density. Check that out. Here's the magnetosphere, and talk about being weak. Nothing going on there. There's 4 hours of data. Man, oh man. I mean, we've seen it a little weaker than this perhaps on the channel. We've got hundreds of videos covering what this was doing over a year ago. So if you want to see at least 4 hours of the data from a year ago, go check it out. Let's go look at the density also. As the situation is very, very low density, causing the magnetosphere to be not with a lot of dense plasma. What more can I say? Keep in mind, low density is shown as white, high density is shown as blue on here. You see that tiny pulse of slightly higher density coming in around 730. And the ground magnetic perturbations are looking similarly uninteresting. We're going to archive 4 hours of data anyway, as this is the archiving section of the video. And I'm going to let that play through. Don't get bored, folks. There is a lot of stuff to cover. Have you taken care of plants that are going to freeze tonight into tomorrow? Well, we got frost warnings where I am in eastern Pennsylvania. Let's talk about the cold, cold climate. Now, thermosphere climate index, that's a measure of the outermost portion of the atmosphere. The thermosphere is the part of the atmosphere where the sun directly interacts. And I would note that the Earth's weather takes 2 or 3 years to catch up with solar activity, and that's because of heat latency in the ocean. The oceans, I should say. And regarding temperature measurements, folks, let's just talk about climate for one quick moment. Regarding temperature measurements, have you ever gone to the doctor and had the doctor measure your body temperature via a breathalyzer? What's that? No, you haven't? Well, that's why measuring the atmosphere is not an accurate representation of the Earth's climate. I know you live in the air portion, not the water portion, but folks, the temperature of the water is what controls the Earth's climate. Not CO2, not the atmosphere. It's the sun. And by the way, the 10.7 centimeter radial flux still at 66, so solar minimum conditions. And folks, it takes 2 or 3 years for the Earth's temperature to come back up after solar activity increases. That's just the way it works. Anyway, moving on to the GOES magnetometer, and we see some steepness here, some steep choppiness, and not really smooth lines going on recently. Let's take a look at the gong too. And this particular data set's an hour and 17 minutes old, so that's pretty good. It's pretty up to date. And it looks like a current sheet polarity crossing has just happened. Here's the last frame. And it looks like it's showing us no field force line at all, which means we are in the, well, in the past hour and 17 minutes. There's the situation, folks. We do see some activity in front of stereo A there. I did check stereo A's coronagraph, and there are nothing resembling Earth-facing coronal mass ejections today. By the way, you don't need X-ray flares for that. There's the charging hazard. It's pretty minor. X-ray flux is totally flatlined. KP has come up to 2. And there's the GOES electron flux. We're going to talk about electrons and Van Allen belts in a minute. And we see a kind of an odd dip in the electron flux there. And here are the relativistic electrons looking pretty low as far as those go also. Now there's a mission that's ending today. A very important mission that's been studying the Van Allen belts. Did you know that a third Van Allen belt gets created when solar storms hit the magnetosphere? It's true. Of course, they were first discovered in 1958. And this mission, it'll be retired today as it's out of fuel and so on. Anyway, read the article here on SciTech Daily about how the discoveries revolutionized the understanding of the near-Earth environment. Let me play you a clip. Now, these things were in a highly elliptical orbit in order to repeatedly fly in and out of the Van Allen belts to kind of measure their location, measure relativistic electrons, all that kind of stuff, and measure what happens when solar storms hit it in order to predict spacecraft hazards and so on. So anyway, read the article. Let's move on to the ionosphere. And when I say on, I mean down, as the ionosphere is closer to the top of your head than the Van Allen belts. Anyway, here's the current situation going on in the ionosphere. Last 6 hours, courtesy Government of Australia. It's looking pretty charged on the nighttime side there, folks. We did see some auroras there in Norway that were unexpected, so check out spaceweather.com if you want to see that. Looking pretty charged on the nighttime side, and pretty normal on the daytime side, really. Here's an earthquake rundown. It looks like one just came in. Let's look at the last 24 hours. By the way, this video was shot at 4:36. And oh, we see some new Madrid quakes there, such as one in Kansas. We're only going to cover 4+ magnitude, though, so we got a 5.2 in Japan. Next, coming in at 1344 UTC, a 4.6 at Chile. Next is a 4.8 at the Philippines. Could be an aftershock of that 6.4 we saw the day before yesterday. Here's an interesting quake at a very shallow depth, only 0.1 kilometers, probably magmatic activity there, near the town of Volcano. That doesn't mean the volcano, it means the town of Volcano. They conveniently called a town Volcano. Good plan, dudes. Good plan. Next, we see a 4.5 in Argentina, followed by a 4.5 in Indonesia. That one is at depth. That's the second deep quake we've seen at Indonesia. Heads up there for a larger quake at the surface. I think this is the largest of the past 24, a 5.5 at Papua New Guinea, followed by a 4.5 at Japan. That's a deep quake there, too. Here's a 4.7 at Oregon. That one's out in the ocean. We've seen a bunch of quakes out there in the ocean. Here's the location of that. So it looks like a bit of an earthquake uptick, folks. And we decided to break out some music after all, as this has taken a while. Anyway, there's that 4.7 out off the coast of Oregon. Next, we see a 5.3 at Kodiak, Alaska. Kind of a centrally located quake there. Next, a 4.5 at Chile. That one is at 104 kilometers depth. Heads up western South America for a larger quake at the surface, as the 7 magnitude earthquake drought continues. Not to mention the 8 earthquake drought. All right, so the last 2 coming in here include a 5.1 at Tonga. That one coming in at 7:45 UTC. That one not a deep quake. Here are the pressure maps, and we'll just advance that. We'll let that play through about 24 hours so you can see where pressure systems may be over your head. This is the GFS model. And by the way, windy.com has a wonderful mobile app. Highly recommended. And let's move on to some more stuff. Volcano rundown. We see an uptick in volcanic activity also. First on the list, speaking of also, is Mount Also. It's producing a 5,000-foot ash plume. Sakurajima exploded, produced a 6,000-foot ash plume. Karangatang. No, Karangatang. No, Karangatang. It's a volcano. Karangatang. It's a volcano. It's back to exploding. It's in Indonesia. It's producing an 8,000-foot ash plume. Krakatau produced a 10,000-foot volcanic ash plume. Please don't fly over that in your John Denver-style ultralight, non-license requiring aircraft. Semeru still exploding, 14,000-foot ash plume there. Dacono exploding, 8,000-foot ash plume there. Revenador exploding, 14,000-foot ash plume there. Sabancaya exploding, 24,000-foot ash plume there. Copihu, still don't jump your BMX bike over Copihu, even though volcanic ash is not identifiable in satellite image. And Nevados de Chilean still exploding, producing a 14,000-foot ash plume. Please don't pole vault Nevados de Chilean. We need the views. Are you aware of the new technology that can, not orangutan, are you aware of the new technology that can identify airborne chemicals down to parts per billion? Well, if not, why don't you watch our video from yesterday, and we'll explain it in greater depth and link you to the article. Here's where stuff is in the solar system. And Milky Way Galaxy Team for the win. Please leave a comment if you're viewing the video from a different galaxy, plane of existence, multiverse, starship, star system, or any other location or projection of reality that you may be in. There's where stuff will be in 1 week. Here's where stuff is above my head. Check it out, Deneb is right on the horizon. And next time you hear thunder, check out lightningmaps.org. Here's where the thunder is now. It's right behind the lightning. A whole bunch of thunder in the Caribbean. Please leave a comment if you're viewing our video while shrimping. Anyway, there's all kinds of tropical storm warnings and other weather warnings. We got to keep moving on here because there's a lot of stuff to cover. Now, where I'm located, which is in eastern Pennsylvania, we've got a frost warning. See all that blue? That's frost warnings. Most of the state of Ohio, most of Indiana, over half of Kentucky, half of Tennessee, all frost warnings. Part of central Pennsylvania, which is kind of the high mountains portion of central Pennsylvania there, like State College area, Mount Davis, the high point of Pennsylvania. All kinds of increases there. I got to shut that down. I got to shut that down. All right. That's Tony Montana, folks. Tony Montana. By the way, those purple areas are hard freeze warnings. These are all tropical storm advisories. We got gale warnings all around the coasts. So if you're not ready for the early winter, for the third year in a row, folks, the third year in a row, it's so hot that it's cold. That's what the mainstream media is going to tell you. Let's look at the temperature anomaly over the past couple days. Just going to let this play through so you can see pulse after pulse of incredibly cold air sweeping through the U.S., producing temperature anomalies to, man, look at that one day. Jeez. Look at this spot right here. Look at how cold Mexico gets. Mexico's looking at temperatures 16 below normal there. And that's Celsius, folks. 16 C below normal. DAG. That is October 26th. I'll let that play through a little longer here. All the date stamps are visible. And I've sped it up to maximum speed. Look at those cold pulses coming out of Canada. It's so hot that it's cold, folks. And it's all caused by CO2. Pardon the sarcasm. Check out Electroverse, which is electroverse.net, by the way. Were you aware that 2,159 low temperature records were broken? And we're talking about, this is already 3 days ago that this was reported. This is from the October 15th edition. Links to that article below the video as well. Are you familiar with Tony Heller? Well, he's fantastic. We've watched his viewership go from 12,000 to like 50,000.
Hello, this is Tony Heller from Real Climate.
Anyway, Tony understands the way the mainstream is trying to tell you that it's so hot that it's cold. If you're viewing the video from the southern hemisphere, please let us know if it's so hot that it's cold down there also. Apparently a thermometer is in the form of a loop. I always thought a hot temperature led to a hotter temperature. Apparently hot temperatures lead to cold temperatures, and what they're going to say is that meridional jet stream flow is caused by it being too hot. No, wait, meridional jet stream flow is caused by it being too cold.
And this diagram shows the wavy jet stream, which is blamed on global cooling. Now fast forward to 2015. There you see the exact same diagram of the wavy jet stream, only now scientists are blaming it on global warming.
Did you get that? Watch Tony's videos. We linked this one below the video also. Also check out his website, realclimatescience.com. A great tool to show the way the mainstream media is propagandizing science itself. And here's the Doppler radar, courtesy Weather Underground. We've had to get rid of AccuWeather because there's too many ads and it doesn't like our browser. So we've switched to Weather Underground, folks, and we're not going back. Anyway, there's a US Doppler radar picture. Moving on to the NASA GOES water vapor. And we've got some major convergences there over places like Oklahoma and Louisiana. And there's some dry air pushing that tropical system. Let's zoom in on it. And there's the water vapor scenario over the Gulf of Mexico. Some massive pressure gradients kicking up there. Right in this area, especially. And I'll let that play one more time and move on. And here are the jet streams in that area. I would note the extreme meridional jet stream flow. And let's zoom out. And there's the rest of the Western world in terms of jet streams. Let's go out one more click. I apologize. Southern jet's looking pretty concentrated down there. Northern jet, extremely meridional. And let's look at the eastern world. And there are the jets in the east. We got doubled up jets on both the northern and southern hemispheres there. Moving on to the That Is Censored, and that is a sinkhole where we talk about whatever we want. like our movie review. Have you watched our movie reviews? We just did one a few days ago where we talk about Exorcist 3 and one of the scariest movies you'll ever see, 9 Lives, starring Kevin Spacey as a cat. You want to talk about some scary stuff? Well, we're making it scary on the channel here since it's October. And check out this video from USA Today. This is a legit ghost video, allegedly. Check it out. You want to be freaked out? See this? We don't know what that is. Here's a woman who's trying to water some plants, and that shadowy figure seems to have followed her. It started moving before she did too, so if you think it's some kind of photo artifact based on a reflection of her, it's not. It's pretty weird. And we've got links to the article below the video here. Please leave a comment if this frightens you in any way. Please leave a comment if you're indifferent to it. Are you familiar with our mission? Well, the mission is to assist, study, and report on the ongoing formation of unified theory of physics. Also to raise the awareness of the general public of the relationship between space, weather, and Earth effects. To connect and consult with media organizations to multiply our reach. To demonstrate cutting-edge proof-of-concept solutions to problems, like growing plants indoors when it's exceedingly cold. To publish scientific papers in a multidisciplinary manner. To assist mankind by advancing the study of predictive phenomenon, and to not be ossified in our beliefs. If you're on board with that kind of stuff, well, please subscribe on YouTube and check us out on other social media like Minds.com and Gab and BitChute and all those other places. Watch our old videos, as at the end of them we usually feature stuff that has nothing to do with daily space weather. Also support us, please, financially, as we need a lot more funding. We've got to replace quite a bit more income before we can go full-time with this, but that is in the works. So donate via PayPal. Check out the Hemp Lucid Spaced Out campaign. If you're in the market for CBDs, visit the links below the video and check out the Hemp Lucid Spaced Out campaign, specifically formulated for our spaced out viewers. But mainly, become a patron. Patreon.com/smAshomash. We currently have 2 layers, and we are planning on evaporating the $1 layer. So join at the $9.99 a month layer and get your coronal mass ejections before NOAA informs you of them, as we usually beat them by sometimes up to 2 days, if you weren't aware. So if you're waiting for automated alerts, you should be watching our channel instead. Are you aware that CNN has reported that, according to science, oh my gosh, do not play automatic. Oh geez, don't do that. Are you aware that according to science, which they had the courtesy to put it in quotes this time, Bella Hadid is the most beautiful woman in the world? Well, how did they come up with that? Well, they got it because they're using the golden ratio. Okay? The golden ratio. Schmidt says that on a perfect face, the length of an ear is equal to the length of the nose, and the width of an eye is equal to the distance between the eyes. All right, let's test it out. Here's Bella Hadid. Let's go into paint. Ha. All right. All right, so first we're gonna take an ear measurement by making this yellow ellipse. There's the ear measurement. Now let's go see if that's the same size as the nose. I think we have a winner. All right, let's get rid of that. Let's do an eye measurement. There you go. There's an eye measurement. And pretty freaking close to exact. All right, the science is settled. CNN, beauty is not in the eye of the beholder. Science determines beauty. Anyway. By the way, I wasn't going to talk about Zooniverse.org's Galaxy Zoo today. But today, I saw this object, which doesn't even look like a galaxy. It looks like a supernova remnant. And so I wasn't going to classify anything. I was just going to move the tab out of the way. But since I saw this, I had to classify it and save the image. This is the kind of thing you might see if you become the next citizen scientist on zooniverse.org. Check that scenario out. Is that a ring feature? It looks like a ring feature, supernova kind of exploding sort of Death Star style. Yeah, it's a good one. Of course, there's no indication of distance or anything like that, but we need people to classify millions of galaxies, folks. So get on it. Maybe get published in a scientific paper if you actually list your name and stuff. How about this article? Dark matter tugs the most massive spiral galaxies to breakneck speeds. Now, mainstream astronomy does not understand how these galaxies rotate so quickly. The estimated rotational speed of the Milky Way galaxy is 130 miles per second. That's the average speed, by the way. And that's taken with thousands and thousands of measurements of star redshift mainly. Whereas these spin 20 times faster at the rate up to 350 miles per second. I don't know why they decided to put it in. Oh, there we go. 130 miles per second versus 350 miles per second. Super spirals. So I like this one down here. This is the most massive super spiral. And it's got the catchy name of 2MFGC08638. Let's give that a name. Now, it's estimated that this particular galaxy contains a dark matter halo that weighs, hey physics nerds, enough dark matter to weigh at least 40 trillion times as much as our sun. Anyway, links to this article also. Interesting article about super spirals and hilarious about dark matter. Check out this one, OGC 1304. It's a pretty funky looking galaxy. It looks like it has a double core. Something to perhaps study in the future. Interesting spiral galaxies, to say the least. See that? That's a supernova remnant. We don't know how it looks like that, but it sure is funky. It looks biological, like a virus or something, but it's got this odd, like, shell feature around it, which is probably some sort of a feature of plasma lensing that is not understood at all. And, you know, people are going to say, it's gravitational lensing. Anyway, type 1a supernovas have all kinds of different sort of formats. And this one's weird. And there's Chandra zooming into it. And it's pretty funky. Now, this became a new star in 1572. Tycho saw it and did some studies. And it's odd the way it looks like it's so clumpy. There's a 3D printed version of it. So read that article too if you're into the cosmology. And thanks Smash Team for viewing the video. Stay tuned for a bonus feature. And it's a local yellow dwarf, otherwise known as the Sun, in 94 angstroms. That coronal hole that's rotating in is so defined that it's even visible on this view, which is not always the case. We're going to zoom in on the North Pole as we see a couple prominences up there. Keep in mind the 94 angstrom view takes a few more photos, 5 times as many photos per minute as all the other views except 131 angstroms, I believe. So this gives us a little bit higher resolution. If you see a flare, one of the good resolutions to use is 94 because of that reason. And we see a little bit of prominences going on there, not as visible in the 94 angstrom view as it is in 193 and 304. There is a little bit of magnetism following that coronal hole, probably a result of the plasma stream spitting out of it, but we won't conjecture about that. We do see a sprite here on the west. Not a lot of activity on the South Pole, as that coronal hole, that diffuse one just north of the South Pole, is rotating out of the Earth-facing region now. Still could magnetically connect to it, and let's see if we can get a still of that sprite. Oh my gosh, there it is. It's gonna hit me. I'm gonna get out of the way of this thing. Get me out of the way. Anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in. Since it'll never be now again, May that solar wind be at your back and that atherosclerosis absent from your veins. And remember, when you're staring at the sun, don't drink. And if you drink, stare at the sun anyway, just don't drive. Press like and subscribe.